I don't know about you, but I have been fascinated by all the twists and turns ever since Donald Trump became president-elect. I wake up every day and I think to myself, oh, we're going to be all right. It's okay. Trump's going to be back in the White House, and all the stuff we've imported from across the pond, all the wokery and all of the cancel culture and all of that, it's going to be turned around at last. And hopefully it will give a little bit of political cover for people in the United Kingdom, the once democratic free speech United Kingdom, to be able to push back against some of the more punitive aspects of leftism that we've had foisted upon us in recent years. But anyway, Donald Trump is not holding back when it comes to some of his appointments. He's nominated Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, he has been a huge critic of Big Pharma, and as a result, it sent shares of major drug companies crashing today. Moderna's stock tumbled 7% following the announcement. Pfizer's fell 3%. Novavax saw its shares drop 5%. He's also wants to give Matt Gaetz the role of being Attorney General, a man who himself has had a few brushes with investigations, brushes with the courts and what some might call lawfare. Various people, actually. I could go through a long list of people that Trump has so far announced the appointments of, and even some in the Republican Party have done a sharp intake of breath. What is he up to? Is this going to work? Are these the right people? Let's speak to Amy Tarkanian, Republican strategist and former chair of the Nevada Republican Party. Amy, great to have you on the show. Let's work through some of these appointments and tell me if they're great appointments, if this is courageous and good, whether this is controversial, or whether or not this might even be a strategy of Trump to sort of foil his detractors by throwing some of the sort of biggest, most controversial names into the mix in the first instance, thinking they might get rejected, then he'll still get a pretty feisty person anyway.
Well, I think all of the above. And I think the fact that we have people out there who have been loyal to Donald Trump that are being thrown out in the first round, out to have the confirmation process happen. It will be interesting to see if it's literally a strategy of let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks and then go from there, or if these truly are the very first batch of people that he wants to 100% stick with. And we will know that clear as day, because as we've seen, the difference from his first run to this run, leading up to this one, he cleared out the House as far as the Republican National Committee. He put in people who were going to have his back 110%. There was no room for stepping out of line. And if you did question, you were removed. And so I think that he has learned a hard lesson from the first time when he claimed he was going to drain the swamp. Now he actually means it. And he's coming at it more swinging pretty hard, almost like a honey badger, where he's just going to put people in and he's going to force them in. And if you don't like it, he's going to make your life very difficult.
Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this sort of level of assertiveness is exactly what America needs? Or are you of the side of the Republican Party that says, blimey, this is some pretty strong tasting meat?
I think a little bit of both. And you mentioned RFK Jr. and the fact that he's now being nominated for HHS. And this is an area where people have campaigned over and over again, but we've never seen a change. You know, HHS oversees mental health, obesity, diabetes, autism, cancer. And so we hear about all of our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors that have, you know, one, if not more of these issues, but nobody makes a change. And it usually has something to do with Big Pharma and with lobbying and where your campaign contributions come from. And now you have somebody who's bold and brave enough to actually say, enough, we're going to tear this system down and we're going to start it over.
I mean, that's surely a good thing. I mean, yes, some of the big pharma companies have seen a dip in their share prices today, but I would suggest that sort of reform in that particular sector, America especially, to me, seems to have a huge issue when it comes to prescription drugs in a way that in the UK we just don't really have. I'm not saying we don't have too many people on prescription drugs or our own issues with big pharma, but in America, to, you know, once for a better pun, the situation with big pharma is on steroids. So yes. I actually think that this is probably a potentially good thing that could have positive ramifications around the world.
I mean, we have television ads that are allowed, you know, for big pharma to sit there and display their drugs. And it's a joke because at the end of each ad, it will quickly, like an auctioneer, will relay all of the side effects, and a lot of times it's even death. So people just sit there and shake their heads. They say, why is this allowed to be displayed? You can travel from one country to the next and taste McDonald's, and it will be completely different ingredients because we're allowed to have so many more chemicals, and it's leading to childhood obesity off the charts. Mental health problems off the charts. It's actually affecting our children's hormones. And so this is a massive problem. And so you're going to hear pushback from those on the left or from those who actually deal with Big Pharma on a regular basis in a positive way for themselves, and saying that, they're going to call him crazy. This is a man who's actually had to overcome addiction. He's had to overcome massive health problems himself, and he's learned how to dig his way out of it, and he's just wanting to share his information.
Yeah, I think I think this is a really positive move. A good friend of mine, Dr. Asim Malhotra, has been billed with potentially getting a job under RFK in that department. So fingers crossed for Asim. I know him well. He's been doing sterling work here in the United Kingdom. Matt Gaetz, Gates? I think it is Matt Gaetz. Tell me about him and pick as Attorney General. Are you backing of that one?
No, that one actually was quite a disappointment and a shock. And I think that one is pretty much felt across the board, unless you are a 100% purist of the MAGA movement and you're not going to question any move at all. This one right here, I've heard across the board of massive concern. The reason being is he has a number of allegations that were still pending against him. He's trying to use the same terminology that Trump used, that they're out for me, the Justice Department is out to get me, when we don't know if that's necessarily the case, because now one of the accusers has come forward publicly, and she said that she did have relations with him as a minor. And so this is going to cause some heartburn, and I see that his confirmation may not happen, probably more so than the others.
Yeah, I mean, when I read about Matt Gaetz, my eyebrows were definitely raised. And then, of course, Andrew Tate waded in and said, I've been down the Matt Gaetz wormhole, I love him. And then my eyebrows shot through the top of my hairline. And I was like, uh-oh. Do you think that he's been thrown into the mix? So Donald Trump thinks that one might crash and burn, and he'll be able to get a pretty fierce Attorney General through, through the hoop?
Well, if that's the strategy, it's quite an eye-opener. It's definitely caused some heartburn. So, it is one strategy. The other is, maybe that they feel that they truly can push him through, and he's willing to throw himself on the railroad tracks for Donald Trump, because he's already proven that he's willing to do that while he was serving in Congress on a number of occasions.